This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Doc and Jock. Boy, jam-packed show this week, reacting to Michigan State. Is Bryce Underwood already a Heisman candidate? It's September, so we know what that means.
The September Heisman, baby. Let's go.
Let's go. What an epic performance against New Mexico. Yeah, let's talk about it. We'll talk about Michigan State. Did they let off the gas against Western? We'll check in with the Tigers. They're facing real competition, so there is some context there. They're facing the Mets, and it hasn't gone well. Paddock gets demoted, but he's dealing with some personal matters. And then we got to preview it. It's the Lions and the Packers. How important is it for the Lions to get off to a Week 1 win? Is it a must-win? With the way the schedule is laying out, it's going to be interesting to get our preview for the Detroit Lions, their season. It looks like Za'Darius Smith is not coming back. The Lions have filled out their roster, and they're still, as of Wednesday, there still is no Za'Darius Smith. But the Packers have made a move. Is Jock jealous? Is Jock jealous of what the Packers did? They pushed their chips. We'll see what that impact is. $48 million for a guy that maybe has a bad back? We shall see. But let's kick it off. A little bit lighter note. Look, college football was really cool. I didn't think I would be as excited to watch, but I liked LSU Clemson. I liked Miami Notre Dame. I felt like Texas Ohio State set the table. And to see just how now with the money aspect introduced into college, they're treating Archie Manning like a pro. I mean, my God, he went into a hostile environment and they wanted him to be looking like Peyton Manning. And man, the memes, it is serious business now when Texas faces Ohio State. All of y'all felt the need to plaster Matt Patricia all over my feed. Shame on y'all. Shame on y'all. I didn't just see all that, but he had a good performance. You got to give credit where credit's due. I did say, and I got panned, I did say I felt like Matt Patricia would do much better with college kids where that tough guy act can maybe resonate with guys that have talent that want to get to the league. But I'm just curious. Michigan, I mean, I will say this. No hate. Bryce Underwood, I thought, outperformed what I thought he would do. He looked comfortable. I thought the game plan was absolutely perfect. Nice, easy throws to get him into rhythm. And look, it's Michigan's offense. It's not really elaborate. It's not, I don't think, a Ben Johnson pro-style offense. It's just good enough to make your read, see the open receivers. The talent level of Michigan's so much better than it was on the other side, and I felt like your run game really allowed Michigan to get after it. So Bryce Underwood, great debut. He looks poised. He looks like, okay, maybe it's not going to be a total waste, but he's not paid to beat New Mexico. He's paid to beat Ohio State and the better competition. So I want to see now this week what your sense is of the team going on the road for another night game against Oklahoma. That'll be a nice test. And then on the other side for me, the Spartan reaction was good. I like to see that there's another receiver emerging outside of Nick Marsh. I felt the run game was better. I want to see Childs be a little bit better. I felt like the first half was okay, but the second half kind of was a little bit deflating. You didn't kind of crush it, so I was a little bit concerned about some of the mental mistakes that were made. But hey, both started 1-0, so I can sit here comfortably. But let's start from the Michigan perspective. I thought Bryce Underwood is somebody that looks like a college quarterback. He didn't look like a freshman to me.
Yeah, he looks like an actual quarterback who can pass the ball downfield, at least completing it for a 7-yard pass. No, what I think you've seen was a guy who, like you said, poised, was able to step up, make a big throw, and move the ball downfield, throw it into a window. That's something that you haven't really seen from a Michigan quarterback in at least 12 months. So it really is a big deal. I think what you've seen with that Michigan offense is they did insulate that freshman quarterback. That offense had a lot of training wheels on it. And I think it was a good test, but obviously it was not the test. I think this week is a much bigger test for this offense, for this quarterback, for this team as a whole. But I think Michigan will be a much better team at the end of the year than they are right now. And I think Bryce Underwood's going to be a huge part of that. I think he will be a much better quarterback when we get into week 8, 9. And as we approach week 12, I think he'll be a much better quarterback and much more comfortable than he is right now. I think he maybe made 2-3 actual throws, like throws under pressure, throws under duress, throws that show what he could be. The rest of that offense was a lot of just handing it off. It was a lot of power run. It was a lot of check down Charlie. It was a lot of playing against guys who really aren't on the same level, right? Like New Mexico's not really a test, and New Mexico shouldn't be looked at as being a test. I think this was a good starter game. It was a good game to kind of get your feet wet and see what you could do. This week's going to be dramatically different. I'm not expecting the same outcome this week, but what I do want to see is I want to see the defense play well. I want to see the offense play well and be efficient. I want to see Bryce Underwood take care of the ball. And if he's called upon, I'd like to see him make a big throw or two. But overall, I think if you're a Michigan fan, you should be excited. I don't think anybody had any dreams or any reservations about winning a Big Ten championship or playing in the college football playoff this year. I think everybody just wanted to see progress with this team. Everybody wanted to see this team build on a foundation that was kind of laid last year, and they were really hoping to get a quarterback that they can set their sights on for the future. And look, maybe Bryce Underwood year 2, Bryce Underwood year 3 can then lead this team to a deep playoff run and possibly a national championship run, depending on what the team looks like and if the coach is even still around, as he'll be serving a suspension. But all that being said, I was impressed with what I seen from the University of Michigan. I was impressed with what I seen from that defense. That defense looks like it can be nasty. That being said, at a point in the third and early fourth quarter, this game was much closer than that score dictated. And whether that was because the offense stalled out or the defense was getting picked apart, those are things that are going to have to get corrected if you're going to be in big games, if you're going to be in a game against an Ohio State, if you're going to be in a game against a Michigan State, because I've got some thoughts on Michigan State as well. If you're going to be in a game that is a little bit higher level, you're going up against Oklahoma this week. If you're going to be in a game against these guys, that defense can't have those lapses. That offense can't go 3 and out and give the ball up. You can't just be running out there to run 3 plays and then giving the ball back. You just can't put your defense in a position like that. And offensively, you can't stall and miss opportunities. And that was a New Mexico team where you shouldn't have missed those opportunities. Now, as far as Michigan State goes, I think if you're a Michigan State fan, there's a lot to like. I think you did see some progression from Jonathan Smith. I think you did see some progression from Aiden Childs. And I think those were the two things that we were really harping on and really looking at going into the season. Now, I think there might be an issue with Jonathan Smith as a coach. It seems as though he lets his foot off the gas after halftime. He doesn't seem like he goes in at the half and really makes the necessary adjustments and gets the guys riled up and gets them ready to go and take care of business. So that might be an issue that's going to come back to bite Michigan State in the butt. He's got to figure that out. If I'm a Michigan State fan, that's raising red flags for me, and I'm very alarmed about that. Aiden Childs, I thought at this point we'd be a little bit further along, but all that being said, again, you're playing Western, so take it for what it is. I thought he did a much better job in game 1 this year than he did previous games last year. I think there's a lot to build on. I think there's a lot to like with Aiden Childs. I don't know if he ever rises to what Michigan State fans want him to be. I don't know if he's ever going to be any more than a high level game manager. But I think he's a guy that you can win with. I think he's a guy that if he can take care of the football, he's going to put that Michigan State in a position for that offense to score. It really does come down to the turnovers with him. And if he can get that sorted and figured out, I think he becomes a much better player. What was your impressions of Michigan State this week? Was Aiden Childs similar to what I said, where you just kind of thought he'd be a little bit further along, or was he kind of right where you thought he would be? And are you starting to see maybe a fatal flaw with Jonathan Smith as the head coach of MSU?
Yeah, it just seems like still too young in terms of the talent level. You know what I mean? It just seems like across the board, they just got to continue. I think if Jonathan Smith is given time, remember, it's just a second class. It takes usually 3 years to kind of get as much talent as humanly possible. You got to remember too, when he came in, there was a mass exodus of talent. I like the Childs Marsh connection. I like the fact that it's predicated on the run. Yeah, the one thing I would say is I just feel like the offense could be a little bit more innovative in regards to what Jonathan Smith can bring to the table. I feel like there's so much more, but you got to get the talent level. I like the way they're using their tight ends. I would say that the defense needs a little bit of work in regards to the talent, but it's a work in progress. So listen, it's going to take time. I am concerned about the Boston College game. It just seems like that unit definitely. Boston College just seems to bring in a lot of talent that just understands their role. They get after it. Nothing too great, but they're able to establish. And I do think that the game last year at Boston College was really competitive. So I expect this time in East Lansing to be a lot more competitive on the side of the Spartans. But it just seems like with the Spartans, they have a certain level of talent. And they just need a little bit more high end. They got a lot of 3.5-star, 4-star guys, but the highest end talent, you can see maybe you're missing a couple different spots. But I'm okay with it. Hey, start the year 1-0. I would have liked them maybe to kind of punish Western, but hey, it is what it is, and it's a good start. So I do think a lot of people are viewing it like a 40-50% chance they make a bowl game. A lot of people are landing at the number 6 as the win total for the year. So
should it be an expectation at this point, though, that Michigan State does make a bowl game? I feel like that should be the basement. That's where you need to be at. Like, Jonathan Smith has to make a bowl game this year. That should be the expectation, not kind of the wish. And I feel like you said, for most Michigan State fans, it's kind of the wish. We wish we make a bowl game. We hope we make that bowl game. I feel like it should be the expectation is we make that bowl game.
Yeah, it is. It should be an expectation. 6 wins is not all that difficult. But look, it's a complete rebuild. It literally, there was like, more 40 guys that leave.
Yeah.
So it's it's big. And so you're basically starting every year from scratch nowadays, because it's actually, it's like the NFL. It's like you got to go out there and not only do you have to recruit other players, you have to recruit your own. Where if someone
recruit your team,
if someone shines, they're like, hey, they get the bag somewhere else. And some of these universities in the South and the SEC, they're offering money because just to keep you from going to Alabama, they'll say, hey, we'll give you $100,000 per week or per month per se, just without the intention of ever playing you. Like, we just got you so you don't go to Alabama. That's like FU throwaway money. It's so crazy, the stories you read of how the money is being thrown around. And to the degree where some people will just be like, yeah, you're not going to go to Alabama, so we're just going to pay you. You can come here and we'll pay you the most, and we're never going to play you. And the guys are like, well, I can make the money now and I don't have to play. It's not a bad gig. So it's a wild, wild west out there. I do hope that some more regulation hits a little bit. But in the bottom line, Michigan State, it's still early in the rebuilding process. You do got to get to the bowl game, though. The expectation should be for the momentum of the program, because you can't sell these 18-year-olds that not only have to compete for starting time and money, but if you have a program that's viewed as dead, that just makes recruiting that much tougher. So I hope recruiting picks up a little bit, a couple more impact guys and guys that will be difference makers for the Spartans. But 2 big weeks. Who do you think has the edge in regards to coming out with the W? Feels like Michigan might be facing a challenge when Oklahoma gets rowdy. It can be a definite challenge, and I think that for Michigan, the thing that they got to be worried about is, I'm not so certain they're a team that can come back if they get down in the hole. That offense is just really ball control, making sure there's a lot of third downs that they got to execute. So a lot of things got to go right. I think both teams are going to face some big challenges this week. I'm not so certain that both come away with W's this week.
Yeah, look, I think there's a bigger hill for Michigan to climb, going on the road, going to Norman, taking on Oklahoma. I think it's going to be a challenge. And I think you're right. If this team falls behind early, it's going to be tough. At that point, you're then putting the ball in your freshman quarterback's hands, and all of a sudden you're stripping those training wheels off that really helped insulate and protect him week 1. You're now taking those off, and you're like, hey, man, you got to drop back and you got to throw that ball, and you got to hit your receivers. You got to get us back in this game. And that's kind of where you see them start to press, and that's where turnovers happen. And the next thing you know, you're down by 7 or 14, pick 6. Next thing you know, you're down by 14 or 21, and it's just a completely different ball game. It's a landslide, and it's an uphill climb if you fall behind that quickly, that soon. So look, I think Michigan has has the tougher road to go in order to get the win. I don't think either one of these teams are going to have it easy. Michigan State at home taking on Boston College. I feel like you should beat Boston College. I know it's going to be a bit of a tough game. Boston College, for as much as they are underrated, they play a very good style of football, and they won't be bullied. They will come in and they will punch you in the mouth. So Michigan State has to be ready for that. I think you, again, need to see Aiden Childs control the ball, possess the ball, protect the ball. And I think Michigan State needs to lean on that run game offensively, defensively, get to the quarterback and contain Boston College run game. I think you'll be okay, and you should come away with a victory.
Yeah, nice. College football is great, man. I do think that the decline and the demise of college football was vastly premature. I think it's still big. A lot of people are loving it. Ratings were up. Very competitive games. I like seeing that there were some competitive matchups early on. And look, across the board, competition will raise a lot of things. And so the SEC definitely struggled. And I just think that it actually makes it across the board a much more competitive sport where at least a handful of teams that have money are going to sprinkle and get some guys. So it does make it at the top, at least the top 15, top 20, very, very competitive. So it makes it a little bit interesting and more intriguing to watch. And I'll see now moving forward how Michigan State evolve, how they get better, how they clean up mistakes. And week 2 should look a little cleaner. But yeah, execution is going to be key, especially for Michigan going on the road. My God, man, 2 night games to start the year. My poor little heart cannot handle these 3.5-hour games. And then all the media afterwards. It's crazy, but we shall see. Now turning our attention to the Tigers, because, man, it stinks because you know that against good teams, the Tigers have struggled. And the Mets, I mean, I was a little jealous seeing Juan Soto hit a grand slam. That was like, wow. Labor Day was this Labor Day weekend was beautiful because got to hang out with your family. It was great. Me and Brian were cornhole kings, won like 5 games in a row, and I got hot. I got on a heater because I am the cornhole leader of Roseville, baby, and it was awesome. I don't know what was going on, but then when I fall off, when I break, I break. It was just amazing. I carried Brian for 4 or 5 games. All the partners tried to step. And then when it went against your brother-in-law, he was practicing for 2 hours on the side with the ladies, and I was just sitting there throwing. And then when he shows up, then he got on a heater, and I couldn't hit the board. I was so tired after an hour and a half that I was throwing the bag, and it would not even land on the board. I was like, oh, man, I went south. And it was like bag after bag after bag. And it was like, man, he fell off. So in a crude way, don't get old. Oh, my goodness. And for the Tigers, man, I was just like, ugh, that was not the Labor Day experience I wanted to see, checking into a baseball game, having some Coors, and watching the Tigers get spanked and their bullpen get decimated. And you realize, oh, yeah, probably Paddock is not worthy of being a starter. He has been demoted rather quickly after that last performance. And you realize, man, that's going to be tough against powerhouses. And look, the Mets came in hungry. They came in ready to hit. And, of course, Juan Soto was focused. And he's like, I like this, Comerica. And he hit a grand slam. And the Tigers' pitching hasn't been that great across the board. But, look, that's the way it is. That's the nature of the beast. You at least get a taste. It's September. It's not the playoffs. You at least get a taste of what competition at that level looks like. But I'm not impressed with what I saw from the pitching in any capacity.
Yeah, I think the pitching's the Achilles heel of this team right now. I mean, if it's not Tarek Skubal, and you've seen Tarek Skubal's able to get roughed up in a couple of games, if it's not Tarek Skubal, then who is it? I've been on my soapbox bitching about Jack Flaherty for weeks now, months now. I don't trust him. I'm not sure what Casey Mize is going to be. You're hoping that Reese Olson comes back and he can give you some innings and give you a couple of games. And after that, it's kind of like, okay, go ahead, draw a name out of a hat and see if these guys can give you a game or two, maybe a couple of innings at worst. The pitching's just not good right now. And for a team that had World Series aspirations going into the All-Star break to now be here where you face good teams and you really kind of get put in your place. You get shown right where you're at. Like, you're not as good as a team like the Mets. The Mets in the first 2 games of this series have scored 22 runs. Like, that's a ridiculous amount of runs to give up. and you don't have an answer for it. There's no way for you to answer it. By the time this comes out, we're going to have 21 games left. Breaks down to about 7 series. And if you're feeling comfortable, I really want to know what has you feeling comfortable, because I feel so uncomfortable. I don't trust the pitching staff, and I don't know if they're going to get it fixed. I don't know if they have the time to get it fixed for the playoffs. The bats seem to kind of ebb and flow. They go cold, they'll get hot, they'll go cold, and they'll get hot. And just like I know, you can't get cold in the playoffs. You got to get on a heater, and you got to stay on a heater when you get in the playoffs in order to really make noise. I still don't trust this bullpen. I don't know what you're exactly rolling out and how you want to do it. And look, I know AJ Hinch likes kind of doing this pitching chaos, and he likes to kind of mix and match his lineups, and he likes to have things be very fluid. But all that being said, I kind of like to know if I got a stud in my lineup. I like to know if I've got a stud in my pitching rotation. I like to know if I've got a stud coming out of my bullpen who can sit there and save us a game. I look at this roster. I know you've got Tarek Skubal. I know Riley Green can be good, but after that, I don't really know what I have. I don't really know what you got here. So I'm very concerned about this Tigers team, and I'm very, very uncomfortable. And we've kind of done this weekly check-in on kind of where we're at with the Tigers. And as we're approaching the end of the season, and we don't have very many series left, I've been kind of a solid number 3. I'm bipolar. I feel like they are kind of in a series, and they'll be a little bit hot, they'll be a little bit cold, they'll figure it out, they'll only get blown out in the next. I feel like this team, if they didn't have the lead that they had, they would miss the playoffs. But I think because they started the season so well, they are going to get into the playoffs. But it's becoming a question of, can they lock down one of those top 2 seeds? And I don't know at this point. I don't even know if they're deserving of one of those top 2 seeds. I feel like at any point, that lead that they have can slip away. I think going into today's recording, I think Toronto is like a half a game behind the Tigers. They're like nipping at the heels of the Detroit Tigers right now in the AL. And to me, it just kind of feels like they are trying to climb a ladder where the rungs just kind of keep breaking, and they can't really make up any ground, and they're just kind of running in place. I feel so uncomfortable with what I've seen the last couple of weeks. And again, it really does kind of break down to each series kind of toys with my emotions, which is absolutely horrible. But I'm living and dying with each series that goes on. If they get on a heater and they win a series, I'm like, okay, cool. This team can make some noise in the playoffs. I still don't think they're World Series bound, but they can make some noise. And they'll have a series against a team like the Mets, and I'm just like, this team is going to be lucky to get out of the first round of the playoffs. Where are you at when you look at, when we do your weekly check-in? Where are you falling? Do you still not have any concern? Are you comfortable with kind of where they're at? Are you like me? Are you a little bit bipolar and it kind of changes with the series? Are you panicking, or are you usually where I'm normally at, unruly and angry and just filled with rage?
I'm still the same in that it was disappointing to see the competition. The Tigers did not provide the Mets competition, but I've reached acceptance. I'm at the acceptance phase where I'm watching, and I think that I've reached the conclusive thought that the Tigers aren't World Series caliber. So now you just go, man, that's a perfect example. Wouldn't it have been nice to have the Tigers whoop on the Mets and then let everybody know, hey, there's a serious nature here that this team can compete again. It just feels like, oh, you're going to play the Mets, you're going to get you're going to get wiped the floor with. You play the Yankees, Judge is going to hit 2-3 home runs on you, and you're just like, what confidence would it give you to put Paddock as a starter who couldn't go multiple innings, to put him in the bullpen where he's like, oh, and then Vito, who tweets once a week, is like, blowing up our Twitter account at Detroit Podcast, where he's like, I don't trust anybody. I need a trust circle. He came to our Twitter page for a trust circle, and everybody's like, bro, you can't trust anybody. We got when you say all we can do is trust Skubal and Melton and not much else, you're like, Mize, disappointing couple outings. Can't really trust him right now. You trust the offense, fine. But I think the strength of what I thought would make the team go over 85 wins was the pitching. And right now it just fell apart. And it stinks that your starters, you really got to hope Mize and Flaherty pick it up at some point, and some way, somehow they're able to. But because I've accepted it. I've accepted that this is a baseball team that's good, playoff team, but not World Series caliber. And still early too. So I get solace from the fact it's only year 2 really with Scott Harris and his imprint. So I do think that there was a chance to maybe add some talent to make this team more of a World Series team, but they weren't gonna, splurge. They weren't gonna push to the middle. So we gotta, unfortunately, in this case, Scott Harris gets into the playoffs pretty easily in his early tenure, so he gets the benefit of the doubt. But it's coming soon, where this bill's due, where you got to add some revenue, you got to add some payments, add some more talent, because it did have the feel that he was trying to massage, trying to get talent, and not too many projects. So it's disappointing. It's going to be a series loss to the Mets, but you keep it moving, and the schedule does favor you a little bit as they get to September. So I think that they're going to have a chance to win the division. They're going to have a chance, hopefully, to win a couple rounds and get to at least, I think it's an ALCS team, and then from there it's gravy. Let's see. But I don't want to see the World Series because I think it'll be a bloodbath. It might be 4-1, 4-2, maybe. You get lucky, you get hot, and a couple of the guys wake up in the postseason and everything comes together. But as of now, it's pretty clear. Just on paper, the Tigers are top 5 team, but they're not top 2, top 3 team. And that's still a good spot to be in at this point. You just need a little bit of luck when they enter the postseason. So I'm chill. I'm accepting it, but it's disappointing just watching a team like the Mets come in and own you. And Juan Soto, who's kind of been having an up and down year, has already drawn ire from the Mets fans. He's coming in and he's doing his thing. And he's hitting the ball out of Comerica Park, which is supposed to be a tough spot for hitters. Not for Juan Soto, not for the Mets. They're like, we like this Comerica. Let's come back. Let's come back for another Labor Day and get after it. All right, let's talk now. Let's talk turkey. The most important thing on the Detroit sports calendar now is upon us. The Lions are here, and boy, what a shockwave. The Packers made the move that everybody in Detroit wanted the Lions to make, but not at that rate. You're not going to pay Micah Parsons. You just can't. You can't pay. We have 2 players, and each of them makes 48. One makes 48, and one makes 50. That's just not realistic. But man, you now know that you can have 2 edge rushers. The Packers have Gary, and they have Micah Parsons. So that's going to be a little bit challenging for the offensive line. But they took out Kenny Clark, which is, I think, a strength for the Lions because he was just known as one of the best defensive tackles in the league. He gave the Lions fits in terms of run stopping. So now you just know, okay, where Parsons is, you can make your checks and try to maneuver to run the football. The game plan should be to run the ball. I'm sitting here uniquely calm until I see week 1. I feel like the offense is just chock full of talent on paper. You just see Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown, Laporta, Gibbs. I see the emergence of Gibbs. Jamison Williams is going to shine. I just feel like there's so much talent that the Lions are going to be able to move the football pretty well. Tesla, Dan Campbell said, was just dealing with an illness, so his Tuesday missed practice is not really a big deal. But, I do think Khalif Raymond will get more of the trusted targets early on in the season. But how are you sitting, cuz, with the team now heading to Lambeau Field? It's important, and it's still the big talk. We're going to talk about it. Everybody's mad that it's the Lions seem like they're going to start the year without, and maybe now on this episode we close the book for now on Za'Darius Smith, but they've made moves to add defensive ends, and it's not Za'Darius Smith. So my outlook for the season's good. Win a lot of home games. Try to manage and get 500 on the road. But these first 4 games, I would not be surprised if it's 2-2 or 3-1. I think 2-2 at best, 2-2 at worst is where they end up because of the fact that I think that they're going to be hyper-focused. I think the Parsons trade makes you hyper-focused week 1 because, it's serious. The division's making moves. So how are you looking? How are you feeling entering week 1 of the season? It's a big time year for the Lions. But I'm feeling good because I just feel like the Lions are just across the board, starting-wise, the top 22 against their top 22, they're going to count on Matthew Golden week 1. I mean, they it's like basically they realized, John likes Jaden Reed. He's going to have to be like missing some practices. He's going to, we don't think he's at full capacity yet. And I think Micah, with his back situation, it's a nice splash for them. But I think when you let the dust settle and you let the impact of knowing that they pushed a little bit, it feels like to me that the Parsons situation might end up, if they don't win, actually hurting the Packers more than it helps because they had to give up 2 first-round picks. They gave up Kenny Clark, who is a very widely respected defensive tackle. I just feel like they can't pay anybody moving forward. So if they don't end up winning soon, feels like one less team to worry about moving forward.
Yeah, I think in the long run, the trade for Micah Parsons could really hurt the Packers. But I think specifically for this week, I think this kind of messes a little bit with Dan Campbell's game flow. And I know Dan Campbell said that, hey, we're going to have a plan. It's not that big a deal. Everybody's making a bigger deal out of it than what it probably should be. And look, you think about it. They've played the Cowboys 2 times in 2 years, so they're familiar with Micah Parsons.
Yep.
If we're being honest, the Detroit Lions have owned Green Bay the last couple of seasons, so that should put some fears at ease. Like you said, when you look at these rosters and you compare the 22 players that are going to start for each team, it really does feel like the Lions stack up much better than the Packers. I think on offense, Detroit, like you said, chocked full of talent, right? Monroe St. Brown, Jameson Williams. You've got Cleve Raymond, who's a steady hand, and everybody's favorite young white wide receiver, Isaac Tesla, is probably going to have a couple of big plays in this game. Then you look at the 2-headed monster behind Jared Goff and that offensive line. So I feel like offensively, this team should be okay. Now, I brought up that offensive line, and that's kind of where the concern comes in, right? Like, you're not sure what that offensive line is going to exactly look like. You've got a rookie in the middle of it. You have Graham Glasgow, who's now shifted over and playing center. You've got a couple of new pieces along it. It's not the same formidable offensive line that you had the last 2 seasons. This one it's kind of changing faces now, and we knew this was going to happen sooner rather than later. All that being said, it makes me a little bit uneasy because we haven't seen it yet. It's a question mark for me still. I can't look at that offensive line and say, yep, we're good. I look at that offensive line and say, I still have some question marks. I want to see kind of what's going on here. Now, on the opposite side of that, you've got a guy like Micah Parsons, who is a game wrecker, who is a disruptor. And I think what you said holds true, right? A way to kind of take him out of the game is to lean on the run game. You put Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield, you put David Montgomery in the backfield, and you let these guys run. You can either run away from Micah Parsons or you can run up the middle. Green Bay had to give up a defensive tackle to make that trade for Micah Parsons. And I think that could be the weak link in that defense. You take advantage of running to the opposite side. You run towards Rashawn Gary's side, or you run up the middle on this defense, and you just pick up chunk plays if they're available. You do that enough times, it ends up opening things up for a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown or J-Mo to take the top off the defense. So I think offensively the game plan is there. I think when you flip it defensively, this team looks like it has much more depth in a lot of places, but I don't know if they're in key places. Like, we talk about the edge and we talk about being disruptive to the quarterback. Look, Jordan Love's still a very good quarterback. Last year, he was banged up most of the year. Josh Jacobs is a very good running back. You know, you need to be able to contain him. You need to be able to get your edges on the outside to kind of push him to the middle. So your D tackles, which on this team right now are pretty young, you need to push them to the middle so those D tackles can constrict and stymie that run. And if the quarterback's going to sit in the pocket, you need to be able to collapse that pocket down with those edges in that defensive line. I don't think they've added enough there. I know that the secondary looks much better. Secondary feels deeper. I know that the linebacking core looks much better and feels much deeper. But you and I both like to win in the trenches, and I don't feel like they've addressed that defensive line enough. And yeah, it would have been nice to make a trade for a guy like Micah Parsons, but you've seen how much that cost. It cost you 2 first rounds, and it cost you $48 million a year. And that is a bitter pill to swallow if you're a Detroit Lions fan, because that now drove the price up for Aiden Hutchinson. They didn't have to do that. They did it on purpose. That was a very sick move that they made, because you could have got Micah Parsons for probably $42 million And what that would have did was that would have drove up the price for Aiden Hutchinson to probably 45. Instead, we sit here and Aiden Hutchinson's going to probably get 50 mil, and it's going to really put the Detroit Lions in a bit of a confine with the cap constraints. But all that being said, they make the move for Micah Parsons. That's been the hot talking point. There's been a lot of smoke coming out of Green Bay talking about Micah Parsons needing some epidurals for his back. Do you think that there's any truth to any of these medical reports, or do you think this is just a little bit of a smokescreen trying to maybe throw the Lions off, a little gamesmanship before this first game of the season? Because I'm
skeptical.
I'm kind of in the middle here, man.
Yeah,
I feel like he could be hurt, but like, why would you go trade for a hurt player?
Right.
Why would you give him all that money?
Right. I think it's the agent just kind of making sure that the disrespect level is not super high towards the Cowboys. So, look, these teams have to do a full medical. They're not going to offer it without knowing exactly what's in it. Like, you think Brian Gutekunst's going to call Jerry Jones and be like, listen, I'm going to take it as is. He's probably like, send me the medical, send me his last 5 medicals. What's going on? So I think that the Packers are not going to waste that. And look, in the end, I think the Packers just really love having the solid edge guys, Reggie White, Micah Parsons. I feel like they feel that their organization's in a spot where they can compete a little bit closer to get to the postseason now and make a run. So more power to them. And the Lions, I think, have a better player in Aiden Hutchinson. So we'll see now. It sucks because the price got driven up. The price is going to be $50 million for Aiden. So that's why Brad Holmes was giving me the poo-poo face when I said, when he did the 8:30 a.m. interview, he probably was like, I think he probably knew. Like, he was hearing the whispers that the Packers were into it, and he's probably like, oh, man, I'm going to have to deal with the PR hit. I got to pay Aiden $50. I mean, that basically he probably realized, I got to pick. Is it J-Mo? Is it Branch? I got to pick one of my babies has got to go. And it might be Jack, it might be Sam, but he can't pay all 5 guys $25 million a year. Someone's got to go. And I think he's starting to realize that they literally cannot keep everybody. But at least for week 1, he's not going to be Micah Parsons. He's acclimating. He's ramping up. Nobody can ramp up in 5 days and have his full power. So it's going to be,
I think this works out perfectly for the Lions, right? Like, he gets traded to a new team. He's got to learn their system.
Yeah.
He hasn't really practiced all off season.
Right.
So he doesn't. We talk about getting that callus.
Game shape.
He doesn't have that callus. There's a lot going on. And he's going to get incorporated probably quickly, but I don't think it's going to be quick enough to be ramped up to speed to really make as dramatic of an impact as he'll make later on in the season.
Right, but it might be easier. It's just like, okay, here's your gap, go to it and win.
Yeah.
That's it. It's going to be simple. Win your gap. Here's your gap responsibility on this run. Boom, get after it. So it might even be easier for him on certain packages. But I think the Lions offensively just have a chance to do what they need to do. Because this is weird in that the Lions fan base, when Dan Campbell went on the radio, which was so funny in that I had so much content planned for Wednesday from the stuff I picked up on Tuesday that I could barely get to it all. I did like 5-6 interviews in the locker room. I got after it because the locker room's beautiful. It's upgraded. They actually made it really, really nice. So I got all this interview, and then all of a sudden I wake up, the kids go to school, you're happy, you're relaxing a little bit, it's 8:30, and then you start seeing the tweets that Dan Campbell talked at 7:30 in the morning. I was like, oh my God, I literally forgot that he does a weekly hit in the regular season on normally is on Tuesdays. And so I'm like, I don't even get a day off when I'm not at the facility. Just looking forward to just relaxing in the morning, couple stories to write at my own pace. And then all of a sudden, St. Brown's doing his podcast again. He makes news. Dan Campbell gives 2-3 stories off of his interview. You're just like, there's just never ending train of information that I had to push back some good content from the locker room. That's how crazy it is. And Dan Campbell set off I thought it was a great question from Jim Costa. He's like, so why isn't Za'Darius on this team? And Dan's like, why isn't he on? Because I think from the Lions' perspective, like, they know the fans are clamoring for it, but not to the degree that they are. He's like, why is he not on? Because the answer is, well, he's not on the team because he's not on the team. He's not on the team. I love how Dan, when they repeat it, it means that they need a second to think about it. Well, he's not on team because we're good. Like, we have players that we like. We got Davenport. We added a couple guys on the practice squad. We added this new guy, and they're younger. They're not 32. They don't need $6 million. So I think that, which was funny because people are like, well, post the whole quote. When someone says we're good, how do you take that out of context? We're good. We don't have them because we don't need them. We're good. So all you add more context people are really weird to me because maybe you can explain it. Yeah, it wasn't, there was more, but it was really simple. We're good. We're good right now. I mean, there's no more, like, I know you can do that when people take stuff out of context, but it's not out of context. The Lions feel like they're good. They have Davenport. They added guys. They added 2-3 new defensive ends. They added, so they feel like we're good. So tell me how you reading that on our X page at Detroit Podcast makes it so that the story is that much different. So you conspiracy theorists out there, calm down. We're not trying to manipulate Dan Campbell's words. It is pretty straightforward. Dan Campbell said, we're good right now. Yes, things would change if Davenport got hurt. That would be a change in the story. But as of now, Dan Campbell is feeling good about, at least publicly, about not having Za'Darius Smith. And look, he is 32. He didn't have a training camp. I don't think that, he's at the level of cachet where he can just roll into a season and come in. Maybe the plan is for him to come in at week 8. And the Lions are like, chill out, enjoy life. We'll take the heat and we'll keep in contact with you. But no contract recently. So could you imagine him being the deadline deal? Maybe. But the Lions feel good right now. It makes sense. They have talent. They're basically waiting until, game 3 or 4. If something happens to Davenport, if they get unlucky, they can make the call. And I think Za'Darius, is probably in that same boat where he's like, I could play 9 games this year, make $5 million for half the year of work. This is good. I can enjoy the fall too. This is pretty good. So I don't see the Lions feeling as desperate to not have Za'Darius Smith as the fans, because I get it. I would not mind it at all, but I feel like the fans are at the fever pitch level where they believe that if they just had one more piece at defensive end, this is an all-world 12-win team and get us to the Super Bowl. Are you feeling that way too, or does the more time that passes that Za'Darius is not on the team make you go, okay, he's not on the team, and you can get some acceptance of it?
I mean, like, I'm accepting of it, but I feel the same way. I feel like if you could have one more high-level player opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, all of a sudden this team has Super Bowl, like, in its sights. Like, it feels like it is. I know it's a long season, but it feels like it is, like, there for the taking. I feel like on offense, this team is built so damn well.
Right.
Defensively, they've added so many pieces, and I feel like they are deeper with basically that back 7. It's the front 4 that has me concerned, because I don't know if Marcus Davenport's going to be able to stay healthy for an entire season. I don't know if the guys that they have that are basically the number 2s to Aiden Hutchinson and to Davenport are going to be able to give them the same type of production. Like, how big of a letdown is there going to be from Aiden Hutchinson to who is
Wingo and
Al-Qaheem Muhammad or whatever?
Right.
Like, to me, it's massive, right? Like, if on a scale of 1 to 10, right, Aiden Hutchinson's like a 95, Muhammad's what? Probably a 75. Like, that's a huge difference. And I know you can get away with it rotating him on a play or two, but like, if we have another catastrophic injury, like, it turns your whole season upside down. And again, you've got young coordinators on both sides of the ball. So there's also that. Like, you had coordinators before who had kind of been through the gauntlet and been through the ringer. And I know Dan Campbell's a really good head coach. And I know he trusts his guys, and he puts these guys in positions to be successful. He does everything that you need a head coach to do, and he's great at it. But all that being said, sometimes having one more chess piece on the board who is impactful can make all the world of difference. And look, I don't think Za'Darius Smith is at the level or the caliber of a guy like Aiden Hutchinson. And I don't think he's also at the level of a Muhammad, right? I feel like he's probably somewhere in between, and I feel like he's maybe a notch above Davenport, and it's just more that I can count on him to stay healthy. Whereas with Davenport, I don't know if he's going to be able to get through the entire season. So to me, when you have a guy like Za'Darius Smith who comes out and basically begs to come back to the Detroit Lions, like all offseason, begged to come back to the Detroit Lions. And you kind of see Brad Holmes kind of sidestep and walk around it. It's almost like when you have a backyard full of dog poop and you're just trying to like not get it on your new white tennis shoes. That's what Brad Holmes was doing. And then you've got Dan Campbell on the radio basically doing the same thing, but he kind of stepped in a small piece of it on his left heel of his shoe. And he's like, no, we're good. Don't worry about it. To me, I'm surprised that a guy like Za'Darius Smith isn't here because I feel like you could have had him cheaply, and I feel like he would have been another guy you could have added to that DN rotation who could make an impact. And it had me scratching my head, and I wanted to know if maybe you know something that I don't know, and maybe we need to talk about it off air. I don't know. But did Za'Darius Smith do something to maybe piss the coaching staff off, or is it he's just not a fit here? He just doesn't do what they need him to do or what they want him to do.
It's the Tyrus Wheat era. I told you this.
Yeah, sign me up, bro.
Sign you up, right? Doesn't that move the needle?
I didn't even know who that guy was until they claimed him, and I was like, "Who's this guy? What's he gonna do?"
Right? No.
I just hope this guy can keep a seat warm for somebody else to come in long enough.
Listen, let's be realistic, okay? We're not being disrespectful, but Za'Darius, let's say, wants $5 million, right? The 5 guys that are tasked with replacing Za'Darius probably make a combined $2.5 million.
Well, that's the thing. All
of them.
And I think you sometimes get what you pay for, bro.
Right.
You get what you pay for.
So you
basically have spare parts and broken Legos.
Exactly. You got a bunch of hope, and just please let Marcus Davenport stay healthy. And if not, you're going to Al-Quadin Muhammad, Mekhi Wingo, and maybe Ahmed Hassani in week 9, and you just got to take what you can take. And that's what you get. You're absolutely right. They just don't want to pay it. They're saving for a rainy day, and they realize that until Aiden inks his deal and they figure out how much is going to be allocated for the next 9 years, that it's just going to be you get one, and it's Aiden. Is that good enough? We'll see. We shall see. If that's the case.
Here's the deal, though. I don't even need another Aiden, right? Like, it would have been awesome to have Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah,
like, Trey Hendrickson
30 would have been fine. Yeah.
Could you imagine?
That would have been for 1 year. Exactly. That's all it needs is 1 year. 1 year, $30 million, give up a first round pick. It would have been easy to do. I feel like that was
awesome.
It would have been awesome.
I just think I don't even need a guy like that. I would love to have a guy like that, but I don't need a guy like that. Like Brad Holmes talks like it's all or nothing, right? It's either Aiden Hutchinson or it's not. And it's like, you can't have 2 Aiden Hutchinsons, so you get not. No, man. Like, there are levels to this.
Right.
I'm not saying that we need an Aiden Hutchinson. Like, we both agree. Aiden Hutchinson is probably a top 5 rusher, top 5 edge rusher in this game. I'm not saying that you necessarily need a top 5 guy. You know, I would go with a top 15, a top 25 guy.
They're hoping,
you know what I'm saying?
They're just
somebody else, like a solid starter who can make an impact. I feel like Za'Darius Smith is kind of that guy. I feel like if Marcus Davenport can stay healthy and not on crutches, he's kind of that guy.
Right.
But like Za'Darius Smith ain't here, and there's no guarantee that Marcus Davenport gets past game 3.
Yep.
So can you just go find a guy who can do something better than Almondine Muhammad? Like anything, please.
Listen, it's basically I feel like it's on the back burner. Like they know Brad's like, listen, Za'Darius, you're the side piece. We know we're going to call you when we need you. But listen, if you flirt somewhere else, no problem. But we'll call you when we need you. And right now we don't need you. And sit tight and enjoy your vacation. And Za'Darius is probably like, yeah, he's already rich. He's got places in Florida. He's got things to do. I don't think he's desperate. So we'll see.
Around with what's her name, Cash Doll or whatever.
Cash Doll, yeah. So we'll see how it plays out. And let's see how this defensive line looks. If they go in this game and they get torched and there's no sacks, then maybe Za'Darius' agent calls and says, so about that $5 million, maybe take away some of those incentives and we'll kick it down to 4.5, but we get it guaranteed.
Second snap of the game.
Exactly.
You got Marcus Davenport trying to get around the edge of the offensive tackle.
Oh, God.
He slips, he falls, ankle goes sideways, dead. Right there, second play of the game.
Oh, two plays. All right. Over under, Jock gives it 3 plays. So I'm gonna text you after the 4th play and be like, so far so good. We're gonna do a snap count. We're gonna say, okay, we're gonna have a season long tally here at Doc and Jock. You can follow along here. How many snaps does Marcus Davenport play consecutively and until something occurs to send shockwaves through the fan base. All right, with our last 5 minutes here or so, how do you see the Packers game playing out? Are you comfortable that Sunday evening, 7:30? I hate the 4:25 start, but it'll be fun to watch. I mean, the Monday night games, I'm excited. I think it's Buffalo and the Ravens. I'm excited for tonight. When you guys are, after listening to this, there's a ball game going on. The new look Cowboys, I think, and the Eagles. Get right after it. So it's back, cuz football's back. My fantasy team is okay. I'm comfortable. I play your dad to kick off the year. I need some luck to make sure that things go my way, but I can't wait for football to start. How do you see it playing out? I think the Lions win 27-20. They just have too much. They get out to a lead. They feel good. They move the chains. Everything looks good. They play well. Everything is going to be according to plan. Maybe a couple mental errors here and there, a couple things to clean up before Chicago, but I feel comfortable the Lions will silence Lambeau Field and they'll come back 1-0.
I really feel like Matt LaFleur has a Dan Campbell problem. It's like a mental block. He sees Dan Campbell, and all of a sudden, his brain just shuts down. Like, that's a good-looking dude getting into a fight with the backyard bully. Dan Campbell's a backyard bully, and Matt LaFleur is just a little bit too pretty, and his brain just shuts down, and he can't fight his way out of this. I do think the coaching plays a part in this, and I think the way Dan Campbell coaches these guys and the way Dan Campbell is kind of the Rubik's Cube for Matt LaFleur. And he always seems to kind of make a questionable decision, maybe a bonehead play, and it feels like it kind of cost the Green Bay Packers now and again. That being said, I feel like I'm assuming Jordan Love's coming into this game, maybe not 100%, but I'm going to say he's healthier than he was at any point last year. So that's going to be a bit of an impact. I think Josh Jacobs is going to be an impact player in this game. I think Micah Parsons, I think it's a bit of a smokescreen with his back injury, because why would you pay a guy all that money and why would you trade 2 first-round picks if he's really that beat up? I think limited practice time and limited game plan for him, he still makes an impact. All that being said, I think the Lions have just a little bit too much on both sides of the ball. I think there's a bit of a regression with the new coaching staff trying to get acclimated. I think the Lions win this game, but I think it's a little bit closer than you think. I think it comes down to to a Jake Bates field goal. I think it's going to be 27-24 Lions win.
Yeah, 1-0, baby. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Happy anniversary to Detroit Sports Podcast. We are now entering year 13. Is it lucky 13 for the Tigers and the Lions? Maybe. Hell, we've been doing it long enough. We just now started seeing playoff wins for the Tigers and the Lions. Let's go. Because guess what? All of a sudden, Malik Beasley found 38Ks back in the D. They're like, could you imagine the guy stiffed you on 38K and then he just comes up with it and pays you and you're like, all right, come on back. I'd be like, listen, take your business elsewhere, my friend. But it could be, what does that mean? Could he be back in Detroit? Stay tuned to the Pistons. Are they willing to take on some of the noise on a player that had himself quite the interesting offseason? Stay tuned. He's back. He paid the rent. He paid it off. Interesting stuff. Always interesting things to pay attention to with the Tigers, with the Red Wings, Pistons, Michigan State. Lots of interesting stuff going on in the world of sports, and we're going to be here to document it all. Year 13 of Doc and Jock. Let's commence. And now we start football season. It's going to be a fun ride. Make sure you pay attention at Detroit Podcast. You can message if you like us or don't like us, and we appreciate all the engagement, all the likes, all the retweets, and thankfully, cuz we now know that for the time being, that Aiden Hutchinson is not accepting any more bionic pieces in his body. That was what he decided to declare after he got the rod in his leg. And check out the video at Detroit Podcast and take your maturity test. You
didn't want the bionic penis?
He didn't want the bionic piece in his body. He said that he was asked. He was asked about the rod in his leg, and he's like, "Thankfully, I think it's going to be the last bionic piece that goes in me." And then he said, "Pause." And then he said, "Pause." And then he tried, like he handled it, and
he's like a 12-year-old too.
Yes, he did. And then he looked down and he said, "Anyways," which is a really good segue when you're trying not to laugh. But it did get a little bit of engagement yesterday, so check it out. Fun times at the Lions, and it will be here to recap it. I can't wait for next week for the next episode of Doc and Jock.
You fucking podcasters. I said don't let him in here.